everyone. Good evening. We are just so excited. My tear wells are filling up. And they said, don't you be crying, Dr. Davis, don't you be crying. But I can't help it. I've been crying probably all week and been a little fussy and agitated just to make sure that everything is working out just perfectly. And we're here today, and this is evidence that everything is working out perfectly. We're so grateful for that. We invited to share with you a few reflections, a young man who has been where you are now and where you are on your way to. His name is Ronnie Sidney II. Ronnie Sidney holds a master's degree in social work, but he has a very unique story, and he'll share the story with you. I'll just give you a little bit of background of Ronnie's story. Ronnie is a father, he is a therapist, he's an author, he's an app developer, and a professional speaker and entrepreneur. He received his Master of Social Work from Virginia Commonwealth University in 2014. He was raised in a small community in Essex County called Tappahannock, Virginia. He attended Essex County Public Schools, and while he was at Essex County, he spent several years in special education after being diagnosed with a learning disability. The stigmatization of special education created a lack of interest in school for Ronnie. Nevertheless, he graduated from Essex in 2001, but with a very low GPA. I'll let him tell you all of those things as he goes along. Later on, he enrolled in J. Sargent Reynolds Community College in Richmond, and the following year he transferred to Old Dominion down in Norfolk, Virginia, where he received a Bachelor of Science degree in Human Services in 2006. His early academic challenges ignited a passion within him to pursue social justice and to work with youth. He has spent over 8 years in the mental health and academic counseling fields, and currently he works as an outpatient therapist at the Middle Peninsula Northern Neck Community Services Board. He's an active member of the Richmond Association of Black Social Workers. Lately he founded Creative Medicine Healing Through Words, an expressive writing program for offenders. Ronnie has a great story to tell, a great story of inspiration, a story of perseverance, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy him. Let's everyone give a round of applause for Ronnie Sidney.
How's everyone doing? First, I'd like to thank Dr. Davis for inviting me, faculty from GNU, and giving me an opportunity to share my story, and also hopefully inspire some new teachers out here. I do have a story, and it does actually start off in special education. I decided to write some things down because I feel like my story is better when I write it down, because I tend to forget a lot. So, just a little bit about my book, Nelson Beats the Odds. It's a semi-autobiographical book based on my experiences starting off in 5th grade. And I wrote the book to inspire young people to beat the odds. Nelson starts off as a 5th grader in Bland Middle School, and I actually named Bland Middle School after Samuel Bland, that passed away last year. And Nelson struggles in school. He struggles sitting still in his seat, and sure, like some of the students you may encounter in your first year teaching, he struggles keeping his attention. So his teacher, her name is Mrs. Gronkowski. She's an elderly white lady in her late 60s. She may remind you of a teacher that you had in school that may have been really stern, like a real stern teacher, and she really stays on top of Nelson throughout the book. One of Nelson's biggest struggles is wearing glasses. Nelson can't see, he couldn't see the board, so, and not being able to see the board, his attention was on everything else except what was going on the board. So Mrs. Gronkowski asks, Nelson, where are your glasses? And Nelson's replies that he left them at home. And really, Nelson's glasses were sitting at the bottom of his book bag. One source of constant vulnerability for Nelson was his handwriting. Mrs. Gronkowski gives Nelson an F on his assignment and compares his handwriting to chicken scratch. Nelson's reaction was to say, maybe you need to learn how to read then. And Mrs. Gronkowski gets embarrassed and sends him to the office. She sets up a meeting with his parents and suggests that Nelson be placed on medication and then special education. Nelson's parents decide not to place him on medication, but feel like special education can give him opportunity to work to his maximum ability. My book explores the emotional side of special education. I remember coming home crying in 8th grade. I wasn't being bullied or turned down by a pretty girl. I was crying because I was taken out of mainstream education and placed in a self-contained classroom for 4 periods. I cried because everyone would find out a secret that I hid for years. I cried because the other kids would clown me if they found out I was in special ed. I cried because I felt like my school had given up on me. I thought, why me? Why was I the one under the microscope? Instead of the school system, it was me being assessed by a psychologist and given all those tests. Instead of the school system being diagnosed, it was me being diagnosed with a learning disability and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Instead of fixing the system, it was easier for the system to fix me. Sending me to the office and sitting me outside of the classroom only reinforced the idea that I was unwanted, unteachable, and undesirable. I wish I could have told my teachers that learning differently didn't mean I was deficient. I wish I could have told them that I was distracted, hyperactive, restless, and inattentive because sitting still at my desk quietly doing worksheets was not my learning style. I want my old teachers to know that I wasn't lazy. I just needed compassionate teachers who would respond to my needs, not react to my behaviors. In her TED Talk, Rita Pearson says, every child deserves a champion, an adult who will never give up on them, who understands the power of connection and insists that they become the best that they can possibly be. She recited James Comer's famous quote, no significant learning can occur without a significant relationship. I was blessed to have 3 amazing champions in my life. My mother, born and raised in Essex County, Virginia, started off as a nurse's aide and worked her way up to the director of her floor. I remember seeing her walk across the stage in all white after earning her LP in the Rappahannock Community College. I remember sitting out in the rain watching my father, he's here right now. I remember sitting out in the rain watching my father earn his Master of Divinity from Virginia Union University in 2002. My father, a high school dropout, worked over 20 years as a state trooper. He is also a Baptist minister and a pillar in the community. My aunt used to say that he kept the gun in one hand and the Bible in the other. My parents always wanted the best for me from day one, and sometimes they agreed on the best way to educate me. It's not just the kids, but also parents who bear the burden of the diagnosis. Outside of my parents, my biggest champion was my special education teacher, Mrs. Toby. I'm not going to lie, I used to hate going to her class. And it was only because the kids would know that I was in special education. I like Miss Toby so much that I included her in my book. She's actually a character, and her name is Mrs. T, and she's the book's protagonist. On her board it reads, if you believe it, you can achieve it. There is an illustration of her looming large over Nelson, like a giant, and extending her hand saying, you can do it. In the top left corner of the page it reads, Mrs. T was there for Nelson at a time when he felt really small and needed someone to help make him feel really big. To my May 2016 graduates, to your kids, you are giants, and it's your responsibility to help them grow. During 6th and 7th grade, I stopped believing in myself. I started following the crowd and getting into more trouble in school. My parents kept my 6th grade report card, and the teacher's comments read, the student is not working up to his potential. The student does not seem to have a serious attitude about school. My champion helped me weather the storm. I can't remember anything Miss Toby said, but I remember how she made me feel. I remember our relationship. Even though it was special education class, I never felt slow or stigmatized. She made me feel like I was smart, capable of overcoming all of my academic challenges. In her classroom, I felt like my life mattered. I felt like she was truly invested in me. The reason why I chose a school as a setting for Nelson Meets the Odds and my upcoming book, Tamika's New Dress, is because teachers work with the most vulnerable kids. Some of the kids may seem well-adjusted, while others will be off the chain. But all of them are fighting their own emotional, social, and spiritual battles. Our kids don't need Ritalin or exposure. They need champions like you. They need a new generation of compassionate, driven educators who have the courage to stand up for them and against a system that sometimes fails to meet our kids' social, emotional, and academic needs. You all have a chance to get this thing right. I challenge you to rock the boat. I challenge you to rock the boat. Unless you're satisfied with the educational inequalities that exist in our educational system today. If you're satisfied with African American males making up only 4% of honor students compared to 20% of students in special education, remain silent. If you're satisfied with Black and Hispanic students with disabilities facing much higher rates of school disciplinary actions and higher dropout rates, then you can remain silent. If you're satisfied with predominantly Black school districts being underfunded, understaffed, undermined, and underprivileged, remain silent. Nothing changes if nothing changes. Mahatma Gandhi said we must be the change that we want to see in the world. So teachers, May 2016 graduates, when you walk into a classroom on your first day, you'll learn that you're more than just a teacher. You're a surrogate mom and dad, or dad, a social worker, a medic, a prayer warrior, a referee, and a therapist. There are going to be days when you will go home and cry in the car or in your room alone. There are going to be days when you feel like the administrators care more about test scores than the kids. Rita Pearson has some advice for you. She said, teaching is a tough job, but it's not impossible. She says, we can do this. We're educators. We're born to make a difference. I want you to remember that your worth and the worth of your students cannot be measured by test scores. I need you, we need you to stay the course. In closing, I was watching a sermon that Steve Harvey delivered at T.D. Jakes' church. Steve said that God endows everyone with a gift. He paraphrased Proverbs 18:16 and said, your gifts will make room for you. He encouraged the audience to pursue their passion and tie them into their gifts. He said, change is painful, but necessary. So as you walk in your season and in your purpose, remember that life is about the journey, not the destination. Every challenge and obstacle you encounter is God's way of helping you grow. And in closing, also, please keep me, your family, and everyone else in prayer. And I encourage you to support the movement and also introduce your kids. I think it's a resource. I have a free app, some different things online you can share with your kids. And also, I want to wish everyone a happy Mother's Day, all the mothers and grandmothers and aunties and big sisters, people who play a caretaking role. And thank you for your time.
Thank you.